Get your filthy hand off my kid. My voice sliced through the Sunday mall. I clamped down on the vampire's wrist, ice-cold bony, stinking of cheap cologne, and tore it from my baby's arm. The leader of the loan sharks, vampire, the bastard everyone feared for his dead eyes and red-rimmed smirk, raised his hand, ready to strike. I barely had time to breathe before vampire's hand arched toward my face. I blocked it. Barely. The force slammed and I crashed backward into an elderly grandmother. I twisted mid-fall, throwing myself under her, shielding her as we slammed onto the hard mall tiles. Pain exploded up my spine. I scrambled up, body shaking, eyes scanning for my triplets. And my heart stopped. They weren't behind me. They were over there, clinging to a pair of long, solid legs. 3 little bodies wrapped around black slacks. 3 small fists clenching fabric. 3 terrified voices crying up at a stranger towering above them. Help Mama! Help Mama! Welcome back. Mending Hearts returns with another series of babies on the hunt for their appa. And this time, triplets crashing the party. And oh, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 1. If you'd told me at 29 I'd be juggling 3 kids and dodging loan sharks, I would have thought you were insane. I would have laughed myself sick. If I didn't feel like crying every time my back ached from carrying groceries, homework folders, and my existential dread all at once. And now, of course, the universe decided it was time for a cameo from the vampire. Yes, that's what I call him. Technically, he has a name. Some shiny monstrosity-sounding thing on his business card I never bothered to remember. I just called him Vampire because he sucks the life, my money, out of me when I haven't taken a dime from him. I hated him. To the core. But really, the one my hands really wanted to strangle? Was my ex. That bastard forged my signature for a loan from the vampire, then vanished overseas. The alpha who knocked me up. The chicken shit alpha whose emotional maturity peaked at the level of half-boiled egg. What on earth did I even see in him back then? Classic me, right? Choosing chaos over sanity. Picking disasters like they were bouquets. I should have known better, but I didn't. And here I am, paying the bloody price. 5 years later, and look at me, supposedly stable. Well, sort of. I guessed. 3 triplets glued to my legs like sticky koala bears, and a lone shark, casually occupying my doorstep. Hello, Mujin-shi. Vampire's smile didn't reach his eyes. I looked at him. He looked at me. And all I could do was frown so hard my forehead threatened to split open. I can't pay this week. I'm strapped. My kids just entered preschool, I said flatly. Vampire's smirk widened. Not impressed. Not amused. Exactly the same he always did when I said no money. The triplets, of course, didn't help. Min-jae, my eldest, peeked nervously from behind my leg, pointing his orange pistol at Vampire. Min-sol, the middle one, also pointing at Vampire with her green pistol. And Minwo apparently had decided the floor was lava and claimed the coffee table. All 3 glared at him like their combined death stare. Shall we look at the contract again? The one with your signature? Vampire said, professional in the most threatening way. I've told you 8 million times, that signature is fake. I wasn't there. I didn't sign a damn thing. Go after him, not me. Mujin-shi. All I see is your name in the guarantor's place. That makes it legal. So, payment, please. I raised an eyebrow. Do you even know what life looks like when you're scraping by on a teacher's pay? The vampire didn't answer. Of course he wouldn't care if I could barely feed my family this week. If I cave, he'll want more next week. If I don't, he might sell my children. Fantastic. Perfect start to the day. Fine. I gave up first. Give me till next week, I said through gritted teeth. He stared, waiting for a crack. I gave him none. Chapter 2. I had thought today would be simple. Just deliver the barley cakes consignment to the 2 restaurants at the mall, pick up my payment, and get back before the triplets wore me down completely. Simple. Huh. A few steps ahead, my older 2 were running joyfully their own chaotic role play. Min-jae played the bad guy, dramatically surrendering his small hands in the air. Min-sol played the cop, brandishing her green pistol that looked more like a crooked banana. By the time I handed over the cakes and collected my small bundle of cash, my hard-earned, I felt it. The prickling of my neck, that familiar you're being watched. Sensation. Vampire's men. Of course. They trailed me. I barely rounded the corner before one of them stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Payment, please, one of the scarred-faced men demanded. No. I snapped, intending to turn and walk away. A rough hand yanked at my elbow, stopping me mid-step. Reflexively, I flung it off, just in time for another hand to grab Minwo's tiny wrist. Get your filthy hand off my kid. I shouted, my voice cutting through the Sunday. I clamped down on Vampire's wrist and tore it off my baby's arm. Minwo squealed, clinging to my neck. On instinct, I grabbed a nearby advertising standee and hurled it at him. He dodged barely, but I didn't care. I wasn't a fighter. Never had been. My only combat training were solely lifted from One Punch Man comics. But with 3 tiny humans clinging to me like little grenades, I could become very, very dangerous. The vampire's hand arched high, aiming to crash down on my face. I blocked it. The force slammed me backward. I collided with someone, an elderly grandmother. Hulmani! I shrieked, panic ripping through me. I twisted mid-fall, throwing myself under her, my palm shielding Minwo's head, my body cushioning grandmother's fall as we hit the hard mall tiles. Pain shot up my spine. Minjae and Minsol, all barely 3 feet high, were 2 balls of fury, charged to shove at the bad guy's legs. The men skipped and flailed like under attack by angry roosters. The grandmother's elderly husband whacked his umbrella at one of Vampire's man. And then hell erupted. Mall shoppers stopped to watch. Phones lifted. Someone screamed. A mannequin tumbled. A banana smoothie exploded across the floor. I blinked, yanked my panic eyes back to focus, and scrambled to my feet, scanning desperately for Minjae and Minsol. And my heart stopped. They weren't behind me. Not on my left. Not on my right. Then shrill, piercing toddlers screaming across the mall. Unmistakable. My head snapped toward them. And my twins barreling straight into a pair of long, solid legs. My twins clung desperately to the stranger's calves, their terrified voices ringing out in unison. Help Mama! Help Mama! Their tiny, pitiful faces were red from crying. The man looked down at them, then over at me. His presence was impossible to ignore. Broad-shouldered, towering height, and radiating strength and authority effortlessly, even in casual attire. Then my nose caught it in the air. Sharp, suffocating alpha pheromones, shifting the dynamics around us. An alpha, my mind gasped. Who was this man? And why did my triplets run to him out of everyone in this mall? And my children somehow didn't flinch. If anything, they only held on to the guy tighter. Before I could process further, that guy stepped forward. He didn't need volume. He didn't need threats. Just one quiet command, slicing like a knife. Back! Away! Now! Vampire finally looked at the guy. Really looked. And who are you? Vampire scoffed. They're Appa. The words rolled out smoothly from his tongue. He didn't blink. Didn't even hesitate. For a heartbeat, the world stopped spinning. And before he could speak more, my twins screamed the impossible. Appa! Appa! Save Mama! Their pitiful wails melting the 100 pairs of eyes around. But my brain short-circuited. Vampire's entire face said, oh shit. Then movement. Several men appeared around me, coordinated, unmistakably a pack with the stranger, shoved Vampire back, creating a yawning distance between us. The stranger took 1 step forward. And Vampire, the big, scary loan shark, staggered back. A misunderstanding, Vampire stammered, voice suddenly polite. We don't want trouble today. Good, the stranger said. Because you've already made enough. Silence fell over the mall. Vampire jerked his chin at his men. They scattered, melting into the crowd without a single argument. I stood there, chest heaving, my back screaming, staring at the stranger whose legs my babies refused to let go of. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt safe. Chapter 3. Several minutes later, 6 adults and 3 toddlers ended up jammed into a small clinic in the shopping complex. An express X-ray, prodding shining a light into my eyes, twisting my limbs. While my triplets became the center of gravity outside in the waiting area. From the moment they made their debut in this world, my triplets were walking wonders. Captivating not just their OBGYN, but anyone fortunate enough to glance their way. The proof of my words? We're right outside in the waiting area for men, each as big as a mountain bear, completely spellbound, hovering around my triplets. Ice cream dribbling down tiny chins? Wiped. Sticky fingers? Cleaned. Smeared cheeks? Polished. When all the chaos finally died down, the stranger sank into the chair across from me. Thank you, I murmured. For everything. He cleared his throat slowly and said, Who were those people? I swallowed hard. Someone I owe money to. His brow tightened. They threatened to take your kids. I know. I forced a smile. But they wouldn't. I still believe there's law in this country. I sounded brave. But I wasn't. My insides felt like wet paper. The man leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Why do you owe them? My throat tightened. It's not my debt, I said quietly. It was my ex's. He disappeared 5 years ago. His eyes softened. And you've been paying since then? I nodded. Every month. Sometimes every week. They insisted my name and the guarantor line. My ex forged my signature behind my back. His brows furrowed so deeply they could have cracked. Have you gone to the police? I have. My voice turned bitter. Their response was threats without concrete action? Equals no case. He winced, not at me but at the jab. Something dark flashed across his face, something angry and familiar with injustice. I didn't know why I kept talking. Maybe it was the adrenaline crash. Maybe it was his steady presence. Maybe I was just tired, so damn tired of holding everything together. Words spilled out. Everything about Vampire, the constant fear, the harassment, the fake debt, the nights I stayed awake just listening for footsteps outside my door. He didn't interrupt. He just let me talk. And strangely, it was as if I was emptying my backpack of stones one by one. By the time I calmed down, the triplets had finished their ice cream. My triplets wandered back toward me, but not to me. Min-jae held the stranger's hand. Ajushi? What's your name? Taeyong, he answered softly. Min-sol, my second, held his shirt and said SHYL. You. Nice man. Then Minwo, my youngest, walked straight into between the man's thighs, wrapped his arms around him, and declared I like your smell. Taeyong froze. Absolutely petrified, like a wild tiger had just imprinted on him. His pack members gasped in awe. Phone snapping photos away. One of them whistled. Cap, just take them home already. Cap. Captain. Turned out, Taeyong wasn't just anyone. He was a detective sergeant, special branch, working undercover on a case nearby. That evening, my tiny apartment suddenly felt too small for all these broad-shouldered men. Each one carried my sleeping triplets like royal potatoes. After settling the triplets into bed, I walked Taeyong to the door. He handed me a plain white name card. A name printed cleanly in black. Black Wolves. A phone number beneath it. Wolves. Not bears. I whispered my thought aloud. He raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? Don't mind me. I waved a hand, forcing a casual shrug. If he comes back, Taeyong said. Call me. I mean it. I opened my mouth to object. I don't want to bother. Your pups called me Appa. His tone didn't waver. I can't ignore them. I blinked. Stunned. That word wasn't even his responsibility to acknowledge. Yet he did. Really, detective, I can handle. You shouldn't handle this alone, he cut in. You and your pups are under my watch now. I wanted to protest again, but the words stuck in my throat. Something about the way he said it, calm, grounded, felt like a promise. The kind no one had said to me in years. That night, sleep eluded me. The card flipped over and over between my fingers. Who is this man? Why step in? Why protect us? People didn't do that anymore, not for free. Not without wanting something back. I touched the faint cesarean scar on my belly, the reminder of the last time I trusted an alpha. He had promised forever, then vanished when I got pregnant. So I decided to file Taeyong away in my mind as a passing chapter, a fleeting episode. Chapter 4. The next few days were quiet but tense. Every time I walked home, I looked over my shoulder. Every time the phone rang, my heart stopped. In front of my triplets, I played the fearless mama bear, furious, unbreakable. But the truth? I was terrified to my bones. I should have known peace never lasted long for people like me. It started the same way trouble always started. A quiet night, kids finally asleep, and my guard dropping for one stupid second. I was in the kitchen rinsing the last lunchbox when a vibration buzzed against the counter. A message. Unknown number. We need to talk. Come downstairs. It was from Vampire. My stomach dropped. He never texted. He never warned. If Vampire announced himself, it meant he wasn't alone. I peered through the kitchen window. Down below, beside the dim street lamp, a black sedan I didn't recognize idled with the engine running. I ignored the message. But the double blue tick gave me away. Proof I'd read it. Proof I was ignoring him. And proof he knew it. I pretended for as long as I could, until two sharp rasps shook my door. They were upstairs now, right outside my door. I couldn't pretend anymore. The knocking came again, louder, harder, impatient. Mujin, I know you're in there. His slimy voice slithered through my door, like Freddy Krueger appearing, leaving you powerless. My hands trembling so badly, I almost dropped my phone. Should I call Taeyong? No, I shouldn't. He barely knew me. He didn't need this trouble. But the knocking turned into pounding. Hard. Violent. Each hit rattled the frame like he was trying to break his way into my bones. If you don't open this door right now, Vampire growled, his tone darker now. I swear I'll take the triplets. My head turned toward the bedroom. My breath caught. The door now wide opened. All three triplets stood there, holding each other, eyes wide. Tears stung my eyes. I dropped to my knees, whispering to them, stay here. Don't come out, no matter what you hear. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, this time not from fear but from fury. Finally I had someone to call. Someone who had told me to call. The Black Wolves. My thumb hovering, heart hammering, replaying his words if he comes back, call me. Before I could second-guess myself, I dialed the numbers. It rang once, twice, then a voice answered. Deep. Steady. Mujin. He remembered my name. Just hearing his voice, something inside me cracked. He's here, I whispered, breathless. Stay inside, Taeyong said immediately, his tone hard as stone. Don't open the door for anyone except me. Taeyong. I'm already coming. Taeyong cut me my line. The line went dead. The triplets were crying now, trembling from the relentless pounding at the door. I stared at the screen. How fast had he answered? How fast could a detective unit move? I didn't have time to wonder. Then, boom. The door shuddered as a kick slammed into it, hard enough to rattle the frame. Mujin. Freddy Krueger's voice came again. Come out. Don't make me take something precious. Vampire wasn't alone. He never traveled without his two pets, Raccoon and Jackal. Names I'd given them, of course. Their real names were far too good for trash like them. I backed away from the door, heart ramming my ribs. I grabbed my frying pans. One on each hand. Ridiculous, but better than praying. Go away, I snapped. I already paid last week. Not enough, Vampire said. Then added never enough in a singing tune mimicking Loren Alfred. Raccoon kicked again, harder. Then, heavy footsteps thundered up the stairwell. Not vampires. Not his runners. Footsteps that sounded like judgment. A loud command roared through the building. Police. Hands where I can see them. I sagged in relief so sharp it hurt. Taeyong arrived like he owned the entire staircase. Behind him were his three undercover pack members appeared. Echo 1, wiry, quiet, the tracker. Echo 2, the combat leader. Echo 3, the only Omega in the team, deceptively sweet, a master negotiator but wielding his telescopic baton like Avenger Thor's Stormbreaker. All of them in plain clothes, but radiating lethal authority. The hallway erupted. What the? Who are you? Vampire grunted as Echo 2 slammed him face first into the railing. Echo 1 blocked Raccoon, pinning his arm with clinical precision. Jackal tried running. Echo 3's baton tapped his knee once. Jackal folded like wet cardboard. It was fast. Too fast. A blur of fists, grunts, and Vampire's curses strangled midair. Then silence. Only Taeyong still moved, grabbing Vampire by his collar and hauling him upright. You again, Taeyong growled. How many warnings do you need? Vampire spat blood. Aren't you crossing the line? This is not police business. It's between me and the Omega. Interesting, Taeyong said coolly. Extortion, assault, coercion, and child endangerment sound exactly like police business. His voice. If metal and steel could talk, it would sound like that. A thick fear rolled off Vampire, mixing with stale cigarette stink. You can't protect him forever, Vampire hissed. He owes nothing, Taeyong snapped. And you're done touching his door. He shoved Vampire toward Echo 2, who cuffed him with a click that sounded like pure salvation to me. Then Taeyong turned to my apartment door. Mujin, he said softly, open up. It's safe. My fingers trembled as I unlocked it. The door swung open and Taeyong stepped inside, filling the small entrance, filling the entire air, bringing a nauseating leftover stench of aggressive alpha pheromones from whatever happened outside. My breath hitched. My legs turned jelly. Almost buckled. His hands were quick. An arm slipped around my waist, steadying me before I stumble. We locked eyes. He looked at me, not assessing, just making sure I was still breathing. His eyes then landed on my frying pans. You did good. You called me, he said. I didn't even know I was crying until one tear dropped onto my shirt. He reached out, slow enough I could stop him. I didn't, and he brushed the tear with his thumb. Behind him, Echo 1 peeked in. Cap, we'll take these 3 in. You staying? Taeyong answered without turning around. Yeah, I'm not leaving him tonight. Chapter 5. That night, Taeyong didn't leave. It's not safe, he said. Not safe for you. Not for them. I'll stay until I get to the bottom of this. He didn't have to say trust me. Something in his voice, calm, sure, steady, made me wanted to believe him so badly it scared me. Taeyong took the triplets' room. The triplets, bunking in my bed, stared at me with wide, thrilled eyes like their whispered wishes finally came true. And with a nice man protecting our home, they fell asleep in record time. Later, when the apartment turned soft and quiet, I went to check on the nice man. Echo 1 had already dropped off Taeyang's 3 zipped duffel bags of clothes and essentials half an hour ago. I found him in the kitchen, sitting at the small island table with a mug of water cupped between his palms. He looked tired but calm, like he had decided, somewhere deep in himself, that this was where he needed to be. I lingered at the doorway, unsure what to say. Is there anything else you need me to get for you? He chuckled softly, maybe caught the way I kept fidgeting. Maybe some ramen? A small laugh escaped me too. Spicy or no spicy? The spicier, the better. It didn't take long. Soon, a steaming bowl of samyang buldak sat on the table, topped with a perfect sunny-side-up egg. I slid it toward him and sat beside him at my small, all-purpose Pyeongseong floor table. Before shoving the ramen into his mouth, Taeyong paused. Eat some with me, he said. Don't make me feel like an uninvited hungry badger. So I did. For a while, it was just the two of us sharing heat and silence. The kind of silence that didn't feel empty, but full, like the room had shrunk to hold just us. Thank you, I said quietly. For everything. You didn't have to do all this. He didn't look surprised. He only gave a small nod, like he already knew I'd say that. Why? Help me? He looked down for a long moment, fingers tightening around his chopsticks. Because, he said, voice low, I've seen too many people walk away, from people who needed help, and leave tragedies behind that could have been avoided. I didn't want to be one of them. My throat burned instantly. I didn't reply, not because I didn't want to, but because if I did, I knew I'd cry again in front of him. He took another bite of the ramen. Without looking up, he said, I won't let you keep paying vampire forever. I froze. You don't understand. If I stop, he won't, Taeyong cut in gently. Not if someone stands in his way. I frowned. And who would do that? This time, he lifted his head. His gaze met mine. Me, he said irresolute. Why? I whispered. Because it's the right thing to do. Because no kids deserve to live in fear. His words hit something fragile that had been curled up inside me for years. I turned away, blinking fast, feeling my eyes began stinging. I don't need saving, I muttered. I know. His voice gentled. I didn't say you needed saving. I'm a cop. It's my job. My oath to protect those who can't protect themselves. And that includes you. That night, sleep eluded me. Every fiber in my body alert of the alpha next door. Why didn't he turn away like everyone else did? Why he chose to stay? I didn't have an answer. I just knew there was an alpha stood in front of me earlier, like a shield, facing vampire with the highest sense of justice as it can be. It felt like the whole world had stopped just long enough for me to breathe. No one had ever protected me like that before. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Deep down, in the place where my fear usually lived, something had shifted. My instinct whispered that nothing would be the same after tonight. Chapter 6. The next morning, I woke up later than usual. The second my biological alarm kicked my sleepy ass, I snapped upright in bed. Shit, I overslept. This hadn't happened in 5 years. Not once. Until today. From outside, the smell of breakfast hit me. Fresh bakery, sizzling stir-fry, and coffee. Taeyong in the living room, carefully plating food, moving like a magician. The triplets perched on the Pyeongseong, eyes wide, watching him like he was David Copperfield. They were laughing. Actually laughing. I stood in the doorway, watching. It felt unreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's life. For a moment, I forgot about the debt, the fear, the nights spent pretending to be strong. Then Taeyong turned and smiled. "Morning. You like japchae for breakfast?" I went speechless, but my mouth watering. He set a plate of stir-fried glass noodles in front of me. "Eat. You'll need your strength." The triplets clapped their hands. Minjae, my oldest, looked up with shining eyes. "Appa, this gimbap is so yummy." Taeyong froze, eyes wide at Minjae. I froze too, like a deer caught in headlights. Then he blinked it off. Grinned, he said to Minjae, "Yummy, right? Then eat more." He ruffled Minji's hair, totally casual, like he'd been doing this all his life. My other two also clamored for Taeyong to ruffle their head. And he did. They giggled, totally delighted, and started chorusing Baby Shark do-do-do between mouthful of gimbap. My chest tightened. No man had ever looked at my children that way. Not like they were a burden. After breakfast, Taeyong left with his crew for the rest of the day. It was Sunday. The day passed quickly. He returned past 10 that night, long after the triplets were asleep. Faint bruises decorated his lower jaw. Though they had been treated, but the blue-black was glaring. "What happened?" "It's nothing. Part of my work," he said, shrugging it off like it was nothing. "Is this related to vampire?" Taeyong met my eyes for a moment, then nodded once. "Don't worry," he said. "It's being handled." My heart sank. Not from fear, but from how deeply touched I was that he took my plight seriously, enough to be included in his line of work. "It will be settled soon. I won't let them come near you again," he added, his voice soft yet firm. There was something in his tone that left me silent. A promise? A warning? And something else I couldn't name. Taeyong joined me on the balcony after his shower, 2 mugs of green tea in hand. He handed me one and sat beside me. "You know, it's been so long I've never had a 10 p.m. at home with a cup of tea like this. Feels deserved," he said, smiling self-deprecatingly. I noticed. That sounded like he was inviting us to talk more openly. For a while, we didn't speak. The silence between us was calm. Peaceful, even. I looked at him. Faint bruise on his face, sitting so still, watching the city move below, his thoughts probably miles away. The tired lines under his eyes made him look like someone who carried his own pain too, but never spoke of it. I wanted to ask, but I didn't. Afraid of caring too much. Probably sensing the silence wouldn't judge him, he started speaking. "You know, in high school, I lost my parents, tragically, to a hit and run. The culprit was never caught. The case went cold. That pain is what drew me to the police force." "That must have been so hard," I said softly. "You've carried a lot on your own." For a moment, our shoulders brushed, accidental but not unwelcome. The quiet intimacy of 2 people sharing unspoken understanding. "You're a good parent," Taeyong whispered. I smiled faintly with a sigh. "I'm just trying. I'm all they have." The air between us relaxed further, even comfortable, maybe too much. Or maybe it was the green tea spiked with whiskey. Maybe the faint trace of his whiskey like pheromones seeping into me. Emboldened, I blurted out, "Ever think about not doing things alone anymore?" He laughed softly. "Not really. There's no time for that." I didn't argue. I just said you should. Our eyes met for a second too long. Something warm passed between us, gentle, heavy, unspoken. I looked away quickly, pretending to brush off an imaginary dust on the balcony railing. Chapter 7. Nights like this blended into a full, uneventful week. But peace never stays. Not for people like me. Vampire showed his fangs again. Evening pickups at the kindergarten were usually peaceful. The triplets toddled out of the school gate with their tiny backpacks bouncing. Minwo dragging a big fallen leaf like it was a pet. Minsol humming a song about dinosaurs. And Minjae saluting every passing teacher like a miniature officer. But that evening, the air felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. My Omega instincts prickled along my spine before I even saw him. Vampire stepped out from behind the corner. Behind him, Raccoon and Jackal and a few more. My heart dropped to my toes, suddenly feeling terrifyingly helpless. "Long time no see, sweetheart," Vampire said, voice slick and venomous. "Thought you could hide behind that alpha wolf forever?" My grip tightened on the triplet's hands. "What do you want?" I said, trying to sound steady. His smile widened. "You know what I want? The last warning, Mujin. Pay up, or I take what's worth more." His gaze flicked to the kids. He licked his tongue like a bastard hyena. I pushed the triplets behind me. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? Vampire stepping closer. I reached for my phone, already pressing Black Wolf's number with shaking fingers. But Vampire swiped forward, grabbing my wrist. Don't even think about calling your policeman. I'm not calling him. I shot back. I never finished. Because suddenly, wheeze, police. All three of my children screamed at once. Their words all in capital letters. I blinked. Minjae, my eldest, stepped forward, legs apart, stance serious, holding a bright orange plastic pistol, pointing at Vampire. Next to him, Minsol yanked out her own cardboard police badge and held it high. You under arrest, mister, she yelled. And Minwo, bless him, crouched behind a potted plant and whispered loudly. Appa said bad guy always come from left. I cover left. For a split second, the world stopped moving. Then I remembered. Just days ago, at home, the scene of my living room went like this. Listen up, kids, Taeyong said, crouched low in the cramped living room. Yes, sir, yes, the triplets shouted in unison. If you're in danger, shout loudly. What do we shout? Minwo replied first. Appa save mama. Taeyong coughed a few times. That's not wrong, he conceded. Minsol held up her orange plastic pistol. Mama says don't point at people, but I point at bad guys only. Lastly, Minjae, the big brother, performed a roll over on the carpet. Then he kicked a nearby teddy bear and yelled, kick him in the eggs. Taeyong snapped his head at me. I nearly fainted. My hands gesturing sign languages saying, not me. I never teach him that. Vampire stared at my triplets like they were three deranged hamsters. He and his men burst into loud, barking laughter. Then, without warning, Vampire crouched low, stretched his arms out to snatch Minjae. A flurry of footsteps echoed. Not from the sharks, but from a few ajumma from nearby stores, wielding brooms and giant white radish. Yeah, lone shark trash. One ajumma barked. You pick on a parent in front of the children? Aish. You need to taste my slipper, punk. We binge watch. Ma Dong-suk dramas. Don't mess with us. Another yelled, swinging her broom. Vampire hissed, jaw tightening as he prepared to lash out. But he didn't get the chance. A shadow dropped from above. A hand chopped downward. A body hit the pavement. Vampire collapsed with a strangled grunt. Echo 3 stood over him, calm as a windless night. Target secured, Echo 3 said into his earpiece. The crowd gasped. The triplets applauded. Minwo shouted, some tune so cool. Some tune so cool. A minute later, a familiar dark silhouette strode into view. Taeyong. Black jacket. Sharp eyes. Fury vibrating in the air like lightning. He crossed the distance in 5 long strides, dragging a trail of his suppressive pine whiskey pheromones behind him. Taeyong crouched. What did I say? He growled at Vampire, whose face was smashed against the pavement courtesy of Echo 3's boot. Vampire tried to speak. Failed. Last warning, Taeyong told Vampire. If you come near them again, I will make destroying your shady business my personal mission. And I will not sleep until there's nothing left of you to crawl out. Before the bad guys even disappeared fully out of sight, the triplets sprinted to Taeyong, attaching themselves like koala bears. Appa, bad guys come again. Minwo wailed. I see that, Taeyong said, scooping him up. But you were brave. Very brave. Chapter 8. That night, we sat together again. I couldn't thank him enough. Vampire could have snatched Minjae, and then the others might have taken Minsol and Minwo. My body trembled as I spoke, just replaying the hazardous scene, sending chills crawling down my spine. Taeyong moved closer, wrapping me in a firm hug. He spoke, voice rough. Back then my heart nearly flipped. I thought, I couldn't reach you on time. The rim of his eyes beginning to red. My legs were running, but all I could see was the night I ran through the rain to my parents. Too late. I was too late. His throat tightened, voice breaking. I thought it might happen again. That moment I knew I can't lose you. Not you. Not them. Tears slipped down his cheeks, unguarded. Raw. I reached up, brushing them away. Taeyong, look at me. He shook his head, letting out a shaky breath. Just hold me, he said. And I did. For the first time, the protector let himself be held. I cupped his face gently. Yang. Look at me. I'm all right. The triplets are all right. I know, he whispered through sobs. But that one moment, it terrified me. You're an omega. The triplets are so young. And you were surrounded by those thrash alphas. My breath hitched. He cared. For me, for us. No one helped my parents back then, he continued. If someone had acted fast enough, maybe they could have been saved. I've hated that helplessness ever since. I couldn't get out of that cycle of hate. My boss even forced me into therapy. I didn't learn much there, except one thing. She said, to heal, I had to promise myself that I must help someone in dire need. And then, you came along. The sincerity in his voice hit me raw. His past, the weight he'd been carrying alone, finally came into full light. And something inside me shifted. For the first time in years, I felt like I had someone I could depend on. Someone I could lean on without fear. My distrust toward alphas, toward anyone, slipped off me like an old scab finally ready to fall. Before I knew it, my tears were slipping down too. Taeyong sniffled back his snot loudly, totally disregard the alpha image. God, we must look stupid, he muttered. A 6'2" me and a 5'7" you. Crying our guts out. We laughed together. I'll fix this fast, he suddenly said with cold decisiveness. No one touches what I've sworn to protect. And before I could speak, he leaned in and kissed me. Firm. Certain. Sealing the promise he had just made with the warmth of his mouth on mine. My omega instinct instantly awakened. I couldn't move. My body froze in place, caught between shock and longing. I hadn't seen this coming. Completely thrown off guard. You're trembling, he murmured. Don't be afraid of me. I swallowed hard, my body still frozen. I'm not afraid. I lied. Then why I can hear your heartbeat racing. How would I know? I managed a sarcasm. His thumbs, stained with snot, hovered on my cheeks, wiping away every tear. Funny, I didn't feel repulsed. And just like that, the fear that had shadowed me for years loosened its grip. Maybe tomorrow would be worse. Maybe I might have to fight tooth and nail should vampire appear again. But for tonight, the city was quiet. And for just a moment, I allowed myself to believe that a kind heart wasn't always another kind of danger. It had been 3 weeks since that day Taeyong saved me at the shopping complex. 3 weeks since an alpha I barely knew had laid territorial claim on me, and my triplets. 3 weeks since he'd moved into my small apartment. And in that short stretch of time, my heart had begun to ache for something I couldn't quite name. Danger, maybe, or perhaps the opposite. Safety? Mujin, is it all right to let me into your life? He said, even if you're not ready to accept me? His tall frame leaned over me again, breath warm against mine. Oh yeah? I've got 3 kids, remember? Triple the trouble, money draining 3 times the speed. And bloodthirsty loan shark in my tail. You really sure you want to wade into this mess? Yes. I've never been more aware of what I want in my 33 years of life. His eyes softened as he leaned down, pressing a gentle peck to my lips. Your triplets even called me Appa. I frowned, half in disbelief. But they're children of another alpha. Taeyong chuckled, eyes glinting with mischief. I'd bet $1,000 he'll come back one day, crawling with regret over the biggest loss of his life. And when he does, I'll make sure to rub it all in his face. Every single bit. For you. I raised my hands to rest on his broad chest, feeling the steady rise and fall of his heartbeat. I inhaled the woody, intoxicating scent of his pheromones. His arms went around me, tight and protective. After a longer beat of wet tongues dances, he broke the kiss just an inch to tell me, Mujin, you can close your eyes. Only then did I realize they'd been wide open the whole time, drinking him in. The next few days passed as if a second spring had arrived for me again. The house, a slow burner of fire beneath the rhythm of our mundane lives. Saddled with 3 whirlwinds, dating like a normal couple? Not happening. Or maybe until the triplets hit middle school. Able to start walking themselves to school? And Taeyang's secretive undercover hours? Left us with a steady diet of spicy ramen by the candlelights. But we still made it work. Every accidental brush of skin, every shared smirk, felt electric. I couldn't walk past him without feeling his fingers ghost over my waist. The nights entangled in Taeyang's room were never just about passion. They were a game of give and take. each of us testing who would yield first. And yet, no matter how hard we tried, we always ended up tangled, messy, impossible to define. Just like us. Chapter 9. 2 days later, my kindergarten principal whispered into my ear that a police car was waiting outside the school. The officers needed my cooperation on a case. It was Echo 3. He gave me a quick wink when our eyes met, his way of telling me I wasn't in trouble. The organized crime division wasn't anything like the front-facing police stations I'd imagined. It was quieter, sterile, the kind of place that carried old secrets and colder truths in its walls. Taeyong was waiting by the security doors, badge clipped to his belt, hair still damp from a rushed shower. He looked like he hadn't slept at all, but his eyes sharpened the exact second he saw me. "You good?" he asked. His arm came around my waist. "No," I whispered, face deadpan. He nodded once with a lazy smile, like he'd expected that answer all along. The next moment, I was seated behind a metal table. A camera blinked steadily in the corner. Someone had placed an iced Americano in my hand. The three Echo? There. Their fingers scrolling through their favorite YouTube channels like this was just another Tuesday. Then Vampire walked in. He froze when he saw the stack of files on the table. And me. Evidence after evidence, alibi after alibi were thrown to his face. Time-stamped CCTV footage of me running my usual merry-go-round, from morning until night. Kindergarten to grocery. Home to bus stop. To playground. And home again. Every angle. Every street. Every beat of my day. All of it proving one thing. I was nowhere near Vampire's office on the day he claimed I signed his as guarantor. Let alone inside it. Echo 1 closed the last folder with a soft thud. "Man, you're looking at extortion, usury, criminal coercion, fraud, conspiracy, and aiding and abetting forgery upon a vulnerable family. That's about a decade behind bars." Vampire's face went whiter than Edward Cullen in Twilight Saga. He cracked, fully caved, begged for leniency. Taeyong stepped forward, took this an opportunity to strike a deal with Vampire. That Vampire would facilitate OCD access into the drug channels in the shadows, in exchange for a shot at reducing his charges. And just like that, the forged contract that had loomed over my head like a hangman noose was thrown out. Just like that, my name, Lee Mujin, was erased as the fake guarantor. And from here on, I got to keep every single dollar of my hard-earned money from then on. No more heart-pounding midnight knocking at the door. No more cold sweats. No more checking over my shoulder at every corner. I could breathe. Truly breathe. Finally. My legs nearly gave. My mind still reeling from the impossible turn of events. Taeyong caught me instantly. "Easy," he murmured. "Taeyong, you negotiated with a criminal." My voice trembled. Disbelief and relief. And awe all at once. "For you," he said simply. "What? Why? Why? Ah." I stammered, words failing me, emotions spilling over. Before I could respond, he leaned into my face and said, "Say no more." And then his lips crashed onto mine. The kiss melted the panic racing through me, replacing it with heat and safety. The kind that said, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Time slipped. Breath mingled. Wet saliva smooching in obscene noises in the shadowed hallway. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested lightly against mine. His breathing ragged, he dragged his thumb across my swollen lips. Looking straight into my eyes, he said, "I protect what's mine." Later that night, 5 adults and 3 mini tornadoes crammed under a canopy of barbecue grill. Sizzling bulgogi, sweating some yopsal, egg pancakes and beers clinking. And pure warmth of family. Each triplet of mine, each clinging to their favorite, cool, Echo Sam tune, refusing to let go. I sat back, watching them all, and felt my chest ache with a kind of happiness I hadn't dared to imagine before. This was the life I'd wanted all along. Not the lonely nights. Not the shadows. Next to me, Taeyong wanted the same thing too. He reached up, brushing a stray lock of hair behind my ear. "I love you," he said quietly. Before I even realized it, for months had passed. Happy days flew by faster than you could count. The deal with Vampire had blossomed into the largest joint undercover operation the precinct had seen in a decade. Vampire delivered everything he promised and more. The organized crime division shattered the drug network from the inside out. And in the process, Taeyong finally found the fugitive responsible for the hit and run that had killed his parents. Not a mystery, not fate, just a low-level gangster, was high on a drug, running after a deal gone wrong from his enemies. And Taeyong, standing in that final interrogation room, felt something inside him uncoil. A closure he had never believed he'd get in this life. He walked out to the hallway where I was waiting with the triplets. He looked at me. And for the first time in 15 years, he said to me, "I can breathe. Without pain." Then he leaned down, resting his forehead against mine, to calm the storm inside him. The triplets, as if they could sense the weight Taeyong carried, stayed silently watching. After a few heartbeats, Taeyong exclaimed abruptly, "God, their faces are just too adorable." The kids giggled, their tiny hands waving and squealing, and even the tension in the air loosened. "No one will ever hurt us again," he declared, voice low but steady. "I swear it." And I believed him. We had our battles, our scars, our past pains, but we had each other, and that was enough. Outside, the precinct continued its endless rhythm, unaware of the quiet miracle unfolding inside this little world of ours. For me, I had finally found a home, a family, a love that felt safe. For Taeyong, he had finally found a home too, a family he had longed for. And the triplets? They had found their appa.